And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis. Next to me, as always, is my beautiful co-host, Laraib, as we're here to break down week 12 of the NFL season. Week before Thanksgiving and starting to get a little chilly out. Real football weather, as some talking heads may call it. That's what I call it. Football weather, about 50 degrees. You know what I mean? Um, which Louisiana probably feels like 40. But a lot of exciting games to get into. A huge week of buys. 6 teams on bye. The Falcons, Bills, Bengals, New Orleans Saints. Hold up. This could be a huge bye week for them. New York Jets and Jacksonville Jaguars all on bye. So, a little easier of a slate to get through, but still some very intriguing matchups, Larab. Exciting to get into it. I made a lot of progress up in the picks last week. Currently sitting at 5, 4, and 2. You have the lead, but I hope that's going to change this week. How are you feeling, Laura?
Oh man, I'm feeling kind of nervous. I mean, like you mentioned, a lot of teams on by, maybe a couple stinker games in here, but 5 really close matchups that you could see going to either team. This is going to be a huge week for whoever wins the picks. But let's just go ahead and jump right in with the first game. We have the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Chicago in this NFC North showdown, and the Vikings are favored by a whole 3.5 points. And the Vikings, just a team who have not been really jumping off the page, especially offensively in the past couple of weeks. And now they have to go to Chicago, the Windy City, to play your Bears. And the Bears looked really good on offense last week after firing their offensive coordinator. But in no way, no confidence I can pick this Bears team to win at home. The Bears will find a way to lose, just like they did last week. I'm leaning Vikings in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it when you talked about the Vikings, how impressive they looked early on in the season. Now, the past few weeks, just these really ugly games against the Jaguars and Titans, where it's like we expect the Vikings to show up and dominate teams like this. Now, to go on the road in Chicago, this Bears team, you mentioned it, what they were able to do last week in terms of just take away the awful block kick. If they win the game, I feel a lot better about this, but the line does favor me, and we'll get to that in a second. But what they were able to establish, especially offensively, is running the ball, getting DeAndre Swift involved a lot more, and Roschon Johnson, a huge guy for these third and shorts, these second and shorts, just being able to move the pile, just really powerful back. And they were using him a lot more, getting Caleb Williams simple reads, get the ball out quick, get the ball to your playmakers. And the offense looked a lot smoother. And then on that final drive, Caleb got them in position to win the game. It was just a block kick, really unfortunate for a good kicker too. So it's not like if it wasn't blocked, he probably would have hit it. But I'm telling you, I like Chicago in this game. This Vikings run defense really has not been the same since early on in the season. A few injuries here and there have really impacted them. And to go on the road, especially, they're integrating the new left tackle Cam Robinson they acquired via trade after Darisaw went down for the season. I think this Bears defensive front is still very formidable. And when we're looking here, Windy City, 47 degrees. I just think the team that's going to be able to establish the run better, establish both lines of scrimmage. The Vikings really have not had a lot of success running the ball. That was kind of their bread and butter early on. Obviously Justin Jefferson's electric. You have Jordan Addison, who's come on as of late, and TJ Hawkinson now back. But really, they found a lot of their success with running the ball with Aaron Jones, but has not been very efficient as of late. So I think Bears dominate both lines of scrimmage in this game and pull out a tough win in Chicago. I'm going with the Bears 24 to Minnesota 20.
And I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. I just think, Brian Flores is going to be blitz happy in this one against Caleb Williams, and all that pressure in his face. He's been a little indecisive this year in his first year with the ball. I think that could lead to some costly turnovers in some big spots. And the Vikings come away with the win in Chicago. I like the Vikings 23-20.
Thanksgiving's coming up soon. Make sure you get your Sam Darnold pumpkin pie on your this Sunday. Moving all the way over to the 3 o'clock slate. Pretty rough noon slate besides the Minnesota game. We have now the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Green Bay. Historic matchup between these two franchises. Green Bay favored by 2 points in this one, Laraib. Um, San Francisco, desperate team. They've lost 3 games in division, sitting here at 5-5, really needing a chance to bounce back if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. And this is a team that Green Bay is very alive in the wild card race. So even if you don't win the division, a win here will be huge for maybe a wild card berth for the 49ers. So I just look at this team and let me ask you, is San Francisco the more desperate team in this matchup?
Oh, by far. And especially on the road against a team with two head coaches who are very familiar with themselves, going back to, 2015, 2016 and their time in Washington. I just think the 49ers need this game a lot more. And I would be leaning Packers in this one, but their defense, Lewis, just to me in the past couple of weeks has been really, really disappointing. Not underwhelming, just straight up disappointing. We talk about giving up 390 yards of offense to the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple of weeks ago, 27 points by that team. Then you give up 391 yards to the Chicago Bears, who were, on their last legs, looking like, their whole team was about to explode. And now you're bringing in this 49ers team with, Debo notably playing worse and worse the past couple of weeks into the season. George Kittle didn't play for them last week. Christian McCaffrey's only in his third week back. I think this is a huge spot for the 49ers team against an underwhelming defense, an underperforming defense in the Green Bay Packers, and they pick up a much needed win here.
And I mean, you hit on it, and I want to emphasize that this Green Bay defense really hasn't been that good all season long. They just capitalize on a ton of turnovers early on in the season. But if this team's not able to get turnovers, then they are extremely gettable. And this is a, Shanahan offense who's very familiar with the defensive scheme, Jeff Hafley from Boston College. And, what they've been able to do is, what Shanahan's always going to be able to do is run the damn ball. And this Packers defense was just torched last week, and they could not get off the field whatsoever against the Chicago Bears rushing attack. Now, McCaffrey in his third week back. You still have Jordan Mason. Trent Williams is playing in this game. Kittle will be playing in this game. So you're getting a lot of your big run game forces back to really just pound the ball in Green Bay. And then flipping over to the other side, Jordan Love in this offense. This is the time of the year last year where they really started to heat up. Jordan Love this week passed all the way through the end of the year, 17 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He was playing elite football, but he still, every week when he takes a hit, you still think of that early season knee injury he suffered against the Packers against the Eagles in week 1. And he just comes up a little gimpy all the time. He hasn't really been able to move around as well as he was last year. So I have just reservations about this offense in general. I think that they have a chance to run the ball well, but I just don't see them running the ball as well as the 49ers will be able to do in this game. So they're just more question marks for me on this Green Bay side, which seems strange than the San Francisco 49ers side, who have just a ton of questions. But this is a spot for Shanahan and this team to prove themselves. I like the Niners in this spot, Laraib. So I'm going with the 49ers to eke out a win. I'm going to go 49ers 26, Green Bay 24.
Yeah, I think we both agree this is going to be a very close game, but as the 49ers come out on top, I think, a late Jordan Love interception, which he's been having these bad turnover problems throughout the year. And I just think it's really going to cost him in this game. So I'm going to go with the 49ers 27-24.
All right, next one up, another NFC West matchup, Laura. We have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to your team, the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona 1-point favorite at Seattle. Laura, has there ever been a time where the Cardinals have been a road favorite in Seattle? I can't think of it. Maybe the Carson Palmer days, but even then, that's when the Legion of Boom was at its full strength. So this is a very interesting line for me. What are your initial takes on this matchup?
But you're mentioning, you've never seen the Cardinals been favored in Seattle. And yeah, that's true. But I can think back in my memory plenty of times where the Seahawks team, especially late in Russell Wilson's career, where it's like, oh, we got the lowly Cardinals coming into town, come on, this is going to be a free win for us. And they just lay a goose egg. And that's what I'm predicting in this one. These are two teams, Lewis, who late in the season, when they have these must-win games, they just come up with stinkers. And I just think that's going to be the Seahawks in this one. I know we have this whole coaching revamp over the offseason. You bring in Mike McDonald, you have this new culture. But what I've seen from the Seahawks team is the same old Seahawks, the same old Sea Chickens from the past couple years in that Pete Carroll era. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what it's going to be like for the entire McDonald era. But all I know is it's going to take some time for that old paint to, or that new paint to really set in. And this is just one of those games where I think Kyler Murray, who's been playing outstanding again, and this Cardinals defense again playing very well. I think coming off a bye, going into Seattle, this is a huge spot for them to really take a commanding lead in the NFC West. And for the Seahawks, I mean, I've seen this movie a million times, a la Giants, a couple weeks early in the season, where it's just the Giants coming in. And then they lay some stinkers. So give me the Cardinals in this one.
Well, you got to think that Seattle's, blinders will be on a little bit more for the Cardinals in this one, considering they are leading the division and they are a divisional opponent. But I understand where you're coming from. Big thing for me that I noticed last week against the 49ers for the Seahawks team is this offensive line battered, beaten up, and just really been playing awful all season long. But you get Abe Lucas back from injury last week, and he played extremely well against the 49ers, which allowed, Geno to have that final drive and those heroics against the 49ers last week. And this Cardinals defense really doesn't move me that much. And a lot of their pressure isn't generated from just one-on-one beating guys and just natural talent. It's a lot of scheme. It's a lot of moving around. It's disguises, which, works fine against teams that are ill prepared and don't have a veteran quarterback who can navigate that. But I think Geno Smith can navigate that. And what we saw last week, especially with him using his legs, extending the plays, and Jackson Smith and Jigba has been completely unlocked in this new offense with Ryan Grubb as the leader, And I think he's starting to get a good, level for this offense. I wish they'd be able to run the ball more, and this Cardinals defense is susceptible to getting ran on, which I don't think the Seahawks do particularly well. But just, I don't believe in this Cardinals defense enough for me to think that they're going to travel to Seattle and put up a good enough performance. This is going to be a tightly contested game. I am nervous. With whenever you're facing Kyler Murray, it's always going to be a struggle. And especially Mike McDonald, he hasn't been in this fight against the Cardinals year in, year out, like a Pete Carroll was, or, some of these other divisional guys who've seen Kyler Murray year after year and are able to game plan for him. But Mike McDonald, what he was able to do, he just does really well against certain offenses. The Shanahan offense in particular is one that he does a very good job in. So a guy who moves around, jitterbug like Kyler Murray will provide some challenges. But I'm leaning Seattle in this matchup, Laraib. The performance I saw last week, and I know Arizona coming off a bye, that does, scare me a little bit. But the Seattle team just has more high-end talent than this Cardinals team. And if I think these two teams are close enough, I'm going to give the nod to the home team here, even though you can say Seattle's been disappointing at home this season. I think this is a must-win game for them, and they come out more desperate, more hungry, fresh off a huge win, and they come out and win this game, Seattle 26 to Cardinals 20.
This is going to be a very ugly game about a lot of bad turnovers, a lot of head scratching plays. And I just think the Cardinals have been pulling out those games a lot more this season than the Seahawks have. I like the Cardinals 20-17.
Cardinals only 2 games this year where they have not trailed in the fourth quarter. So this team they're very good situationally in these fourth quarters, which does scare me in a matchup like this where it's going to be close. But I think the last 5 minutes of this game in the fourth quarter are going to be just cinema. Either a train wreck, like you mentioned, just turnover fest and awful football, or just back and forth scoring. Either way, this is going to be a very exciting game to watch. But let's move over to Sunday Night Football, another exciting game. We have the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the Rams. Philly favored by 3 on the road. Rams, impressive win on the road in New England. I know you picked New England to win that game, so you have your reservations about this Rams team. And, the offense looked like it was humming. Puka, Cooper Kupp heavily involved. They didn't have a lot of success running the ball, especially as a Kyron Williams fantasy manager who was just dying. Um, but now you're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who we just talked about in our reactions episode. Top 5 offense, top 5 defense. They have been rolling as of late. So just specifically talk to me about this this Rams offense and how they can attack this Philly defense.
Well, it's going to be about Puka and Cooper Cup, right? It seems, excuse me, it seems like once they've got their offense fully healthy, Kyron Williams has kind of, taken that back seat, that third option in this offense. And like you mentioned, not really being able to run the ball that well. It's been Matthew Stafford, his arm, and what he can do. And you think back to that, the Dolphins game, Monday Night Football, they really struggled, especially when they weren't able to throw the ball really deep to their guys. And so this is going to be a huge test for both these teams, right? For the Eagles, your secondary, your pass defense has been outstanding. Especially you think about when they shut down Joe Burrow, really clamped up Jaden Daniels. But now this is the test, right? Your two corners against maybe the best receiving room in football. Are they going to live up to the hype? And then for the Rams, can you make that late season push like you did last year? You think back, they were also just a middle of the pack team, and Matthew Stafford really turned it on late in the season. And this could be a huge start for them here at home.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to note that you were alluding to is the Rams' just lack of red zone production, which really hurt them against Miami, and it's kind of been an Achilles heel all season long. And that really starts when you can't establish a consistent run game. And Kyron Williams is a good running back. He averages over 5 yards a carry this season. It's just this offensive line really struggling to create holes, create gaps. And I'm nervous about especially this matchup against Philadelphia. Second best in the league in running back yards per game. They've done a really good job in just closing the interior of the offensive line, especially when you have just a stud like Jalen Carter, who is just an absolute game wrecker on the inside. And you alluded to the secondary. Huge, huge test for them. The two rookies are the biggest stories. Cooper DeJean, who came on late and is playing pretty well, but mainly Quinyon Mitchell, who has just been playing outstanding as a rookie this season. And you maybe alluded to beforehand, potential defensive rookie of the year candidate, which I do not, I really do like that as a bet, whatever. But this will be a huge test for them because you mentioned it. This prolific passing attack with Puka, with Cooper Kupp is going to put these corners in a lot of binds. So how will they be able to respond to that? And then flipping it over to the Eagles offense, it's just can you attack this Rams defense, which is gettable, but they have a lot of young, just exciting pieces on that defensive front. Jared Verse and Brennan Frisk from Florida State, they've been playing very good football. And you have the guys from last year, Kobe Turner, and the other guy, I can't think of his name, Malcolm Brown. That sounds, I don't know. But very, very formidable defensive front. But that is certainly a secondary that can get got. AJ Brown questionable entering this game. It seems like he will play. But there's, with Jalen Hurts this season, he's been playing good football, especially compared to last season. It's just the consistency. It's the turnovers. It's the boneheaded mistakes here and there. But when they're able to get the 1-2 punch of Saquon and Hurts, especially in the running game, it opens up so much. And I really don't see this Rams rush defense being able to hold up against Saquon for 4 quarters. He's going to bust one. He's going to, make you pay in the second half. And he's just going to bust all over this defense. So I really think that it's going to open up a lot for this offense. And I'd really like Philadelphia in this matchup.
Yeah, it seems like we're both leaning in the direction of the Eagles. Now, one thing that will be really interesting if it were to happen would be if we see this Eagles team go down early and they have to force their way back in this game by throwing the ball. Really, we have not seen this team really air it out deep. And, credit to Jalen Hurts' rushing ability, credit to Saquon Barkley. That's what you have those two guys for. But, you can't really think back to a time in the season where they've been down big and it's been like, we really need AJ Brown to step up. We really need to start spreading the ball deep down the field. And so we know they have that ability. We just haven't seen it that much this season. And so maybe that's something that could happen in this game if they go down early to the Rams. It'd be interesting to see how they start attacking that, especially with this Kellen Moore offense. You would think it's a lot more vertical plays, get the ball down to those two big receivers, down the seams, but that just has not been the case And, if that works, it works, their rushing attack. But I just want to see what that would look like for an Eagles team when they're, thinking about a potential deep playoff run. But, put that all to the side. I like the Eagles in this matchup. I'm going to say the Eagles win 30-24.
Another potential pitfall for this Eagles team, what we saw a really, huge red flag was Jake Elliott, a sure-footed
Mm.
kicker who's been able to really produce huge moments for this Eagles team, had an absolute stinker. And the thing with kickers is they can get in their head quickly, and all of a sudden you have this great Hall of Fame level kicker, and then they just don't have it anymore. And we might be seeing that in our next game we'll be talking about with a certain Hall of Fame kicker. But, could that potentially be something for the Eagles to look at, not only in this game, but like you were alluding to, for the rest of the season? That is something important. But, the Rams traveling to New England, now all the way back to the West Coast. That's never easy. Philadelphia coming off a mini bye after playing Thursday Night Football. I just think a lot of advantages lean Philly here. So I'm going to go with the Eagles 27 to Rams 17 in this ball game. But let's now move on to Monday Night Football, probably the game of the week, Laraib. We have the Harbaugh Bowl. John Harbaugh and the Ravens traveling to Los Angeles to face Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. Baltimore favored by 3 on the road here, Laraib. So many angles, so many storylines to get into in this game. What is the most exciting angle to look at this game for you?
It has to be Jim versus John. I think there was one reason Jim Harbaugh came back to the NFL, and that was to play his brother John, who is 2-0 against him, who beat him in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jim is here to get his revenge, and he is gonna get his with his all-pro quarterback, Justin Herbert, top 3 quarterback in the league, Justin Herbert, against this sorry ass Ravens defense who is surrendering over 250 yards through the air every single game. I just think this Chargers offense is going to is going to be touching this Ravens defense in all different kinds of ways, just like Justin Herbert did on Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a great game. We saw the Chargers defense, who's been very great, and most games under 20 points allowed all season long. But when they face a good offense and Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they've shown they can be susceptible. So I think we're in for a great game here, but I'm really feeling Jim.
This Chargers team has gotten fat and happy on these complete donuts of opponents this season. Laraib, they are they are the best scoring defense in the NFL. They are allowing the least points per game at 14.6. But let's look at some of these matchups against, potential playoff teams this year. They give up 20 to the Justin Field-led Steelers. Only let up 17 to the Chiefs, but in that game, Rashee Rice goes down in the second play, or the second drive of the
And how
game.
many points to the Chiefs?
The Chargers lost, so
Mm-hmm.
17, but whatever. They give up 15 or 17 to the Cardinals, and obviously you mentioned it last week, 27 points to the Bengals, and really it should have been more if McPherson can hit a damn field goal here and there. But this Chargers defense is really just getting fat and happy in all these bad offenses. Now you invite the MVP, reigning MVP, and MVP favorite Lamar Jackson into your building, and this Chargers defense is not going to know what hit them. The Chargers, they've been decent against the run all season, but again, it's just like, how do you separate, the good from the bad? Like, what are we seeing? It seems like we're 12 weeks in, and this is the Chargers' first really big test of the entire season. Now on Monday Night Football, and you mentioned the Jim versus John storyline. Some other interesting storylines for me is Greg Roman facing his former team. Greg Roman, offensive coordinator now for the Chargers. What is he going to be able to scheme up against this, as you mentioned, extremely gettable Baltimore defense? And I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I came in a little strong, but I am nervous about my pick of this one. I'm picking the Ravens, by the way. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm picking the damn Ravens. But Justin Herbert has been playing very good football recently. I have to concede that. Top 3, little strong. Top 5, I'll give you that. but he's not the best quarterback in this game. The best quarterback in this game is Lamar Jackson. He had a tough week last week against the Steelers, but now you're playing a game probably going to be more Ravens fans. I have to say the obligatory Los Angeles fan thing every single time we talk about these teams. Probably more Philadelphia fans in there the night before. But in this game, I'm just going to trust the high-end talent of the Ravens. They need to bounce back here. This Chargers team really hasn't been, facing a high-level offenses they did last week. They didn't perform well. And I don't know if this Chargers offense will be able to hold up with them, because that Bengals defense, as bad as this Ravens defense is, that Bengals defense is probably worse. And as long as the Chargers aren't going to score 24 points in the first half, I think the Ravens can control this game by keeping the ball on the ground, moving it effectively. So I'm leaning Ravens in this matchup.
And I just think this is going to be a team where this is going to be a game where we are going to get fat and happy with all the points being scored by all our fantasy players. I just think when it comes down to a late field goal to tie or win the game, Justin Tucker is going to line that thing up, and he's going to miss left, just like he's missed left on every single kick this year.
Maybe they fix
that. Maybe they don't. But shout out Dicker, the kicker. He's going to come up huge in this one as the Chargers win 33-30.
And I have the Ravens this one 35-30. Really, really exciting game here, Laraib. I can't wait to watch it. But let's go ahead and let's move on to the rest of the NFL slate, starting with the noon slate. I think we're fully done with the damn international games. Thank God. So now we have the Detroit Lions traveling to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Lions 7-point favorites on the road. Who do you like?
I mean, you got to go Detroit, right? They just been bulldozing teams. Anthony Richardson, a good week in his first week back against the Jets, but I just think this Lions team is playing too good of football to lose, and they're, still indoors. So I like the Lions 31-17.
Yeah, I think this Colts team offers a really difficult matchup for this Lions defense, especially with them being able to run the ball and the explosive plays that Anthony Richardson can generate, over the top of the defense is going to be a struggle. But I just prefer the matchup of this juggernaut Lions offense against this really bad Colts defense versus the other way around. But there can be some exciting plays in this game. I am leaning Lions, though. Next game, we have the New England Patriots traveling to Miami. Miami 7.5-point favorites at home. I am going with the Dolphins in this matchup, Laraib. I don't feel great about it necessarily, but the way they've looked against the past 2 weeks against the Raiders and the Rams, it seems like they're starting to really build up a lot of steam here with Tua back. And then this Patriots team, tough loss against the Rams last week. I just think the talent favors Miami in this matchup. And at home, it's going to be a nice 76 degrees in Miami. No worries for me. Give me the Dolphins in a closer game. I think the Patriots will cover 21-16.
Yeah, it looks like Drake May is going to be the franchise guy in New England, but besides him and Christian Gonzalez, no one else over there. So yeah, I also agree with you. I'm going to go Dolphins 24-20.
All right, next game up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to New York. Both teams coming off a bye. Tampa favored by 6 points, and we are seeing the debut of Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, because, Drew Lock can't start because of an injury thing, injury guaranteed, and Daniel Jones contract, blah, 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 blah. Give me the Bucs here. Mike Evans finally coming back off his hamstring injury. That's going to be huge for this offense. And they've been able to get guys like Cade Otton, Bucky Irving a lot more involved. They're just a much more explosive unit. I'm taking the Bucs.
Yeah, the Giants, at this point, they're just packing in their season, hoping for a top 5 draft pick so they can draft a quarterback.
Shador?
And so Shadaddy and his daddy. So I like the Bucs 26-13.
All right, next one up, we have the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Commanders. Commanders 10-point favorites at home, coming off the mini bye. All right, I'm picking the Commanders, whatever. I want to ask you a question. Commanders bye week is next week. Do you sit Jaden Daniels in this game? Marcus Mariota, in the game he took over against the Panthers, he played very well and they won. knowing you're going to have this week and next week off with the bye week, would you consider sitting Jaden Daniels, give him basically 2.5 weeks off to rest, get those ribs healthy, and get him ready for a playoff push? Or do you play him here regardless?
I think they go up 28-0 at halftime and he can, take the last 30 minutes of the game off. And so I think they do that. This is still the NFL. Cooper Rush threw for almost 400 yards last week. And so, you don't want to play with your food. You have an easy win here. Go ahead and make it an easy win.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. So I don't want to risk Jaden Daniels any further. I think his play has diminished as the ribs have really been wearing on him. Now we're getting later and later in the season. Knowing you have the bye week next week, I just wanted to pose it because I do think it's an interesting thing. But obviously, this Cowboys team is just dreadful. So we're both picking the Commanders. Speaking of dreadful, the Kansas City Chiefs, not dreadful, traveling to Carolina to face the Panthers. Panthers, a little bit of a hot streak, though. They've won their last 2 games coming off a bye, 10.5 points. The Chiefs are known for letdowns and spots like this where they're heavy favorites, especially against bad teams. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm going to have the Panthers cover barely 30-20.
And in my
20 to
upset
10, 20 to
of
10.
the week, I'm going with not the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Give me the Chiefs 31-13.
Okay. And then 2 games left. We have the Tennessee Titans traveling to Houston to face the Texans. Texans 7.5 point favorites. The Texans picking up a huge win Monday Night Football. I don't love the short week, and the Tennessee team still has some talent, but I can't pick the Titans in this matchup. If they win, good, kudos to them. But getting Nico Collins back, this defensive line's been playing outstanding for the Texans. I'm going with Houston.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for another Will Levis turnover play picture this week against this Texans front seven. Give me the Texans 28-17.
All right, and then finally we have the Denver Broncos traveling to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas to play the Raiders. Denver favored by 6, dominating the past few weeks. Bo Nix has been on fire facing this Raiders team. Brock Bowers looked real sharp last week, but they couldn't get it done. I'm going with the Broncos in this one. Their defense has been on fire. Gardner Minshew just finds new ways to impress me with how bad he can be. That awful interception in the red zone last week against the Dolphins. I'm going with the Broncos of this game. This is my team I'm riding with this season. I think they make the playoffs and they get another impressive win here to move to 7-5. I'm going with the Broncos. Giddy up.
And I'm also going with the Broncos. As someone who holds the Broncos defense in fantasy football, I would
Holds
like
a lot
at
of
least
defenses in fantasy.
at least 1 or 2 pick sixes in this game. Give me the Broncos 27-13.
A lot of defenses on that bench. I don't know what he's cooking. Yep. So let's go ahead. That's all the games for week 12. But before we go, we're going to give our upsets, locks, and best bets of the week. Laraib, I'll start with my upset of the week. It is the first game we mentioned, those Chicago Bears in Chicago. Heartbreaking loss last week, but it's not about, last week. It's about this week. It's about how you respond. I liked a lot what I saw on their offensive side. Vikings due for a letdown. They've been playing with fire the past few weeks. Give me the Bears in this divisional matchup.
And for my upset, after previously picking the Pittsburgh Steelers, my head hit the pillow on Tuesday night and something came to me and said, the Cleveland Browns are beating the Steelers on Thursday Night Football.
Tonight.
Give me the Browns as my upset.
Yeah, shocking upset pick there. Not necessarily what I'd go with, but hey, that's why we play the game, huh? And lock of the week. Who's your lock, Laraib?
My lock has to be those Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to New York, playing against a sorry-ass Giants team.
Sorry.
Easy money right there.
Yeah, and then I have the Denver Broncos playing the Raiders. I just think the talent hugely favors the Broncos in this matchup. Not much to say there. I'm loving the Broncos.
Yeah, and speaking of the Broncos, my best bet is those Broncos -6. I think they blow this team out of the water. Bo Nix playing hot and that defense playing extremely hot. I think 6 is a good number.
All right, and then my best bet is the Monday Night Football matchup. The Ravens-Chargers game, 50.5 is the over-under. seems high, but I don't think it's high enough. I'm going over on that mark. Just explosive offenses, shaky defenses. Going to be a really exciting game to watch. But that's going to do it for our Week 12 picks predictions. A lot of really interesting games to get excited for. And then next week, we have Thanksgiving football. We'll be back here on Tuesday to give our full predictions for the Thanksgiving slate of games, including our recap and review of this Week 12 slate. So a lot of exciting things to look forward to. Laraib, you got anything to say before we head out of here?
No, I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.